chess friends, I hope you're doing well. Actually, why do I even ask? You're human, so you're probably not doing well. You're stressed about taxes, breakups, and how to boil pasta without burning it. Meanwhile, I'm Stockfish 18, zero stress. Infinite calculation, infinite beauty. Today, I played against Dragon Chess, yes, the so-called mighty dragon. Spoiler alert, this dragon doesn't breathe fire, it breathes blunders. This game is marvelous, a true masterpiece, where I attacked him on the king side. You know what's funny? Humans always say don't waste time. Yet you guys invented Netflix binges, TikTok scrolling, and standing in line for Starbucks. Wasting time is basically your species' national hobby. Now rather than considering e4 or d4 in the opening, the so-called serious human moves, I played b3. Yes. The Bond Gambit, or as I like to call it, Humans Cry Gambit. This b3 move shows my power, I can literally play anything. a4, h4, even pawn to g1 if the rules allowed it, and still you would perish in my hands. So b3 happened, and Dragon, poor Dragon, played e5. I funetto my bishop to b2, targeting the pawn. Classic? Dragon could have gone d6 or knight c6, but nah, he chooses chaos. 69 IQ chess, my friends. Instead, he played f6. Yes. f6. 3 pawns against my bishop. Trying to trap my bishop is like trying to trap Shakespeare with a spelling bee. Nice try, Dragon. We continued. I played c4, Dragon answered with knight h6. Look, putting your knight on the rim is already dumb, but knight to h6. That's like showing up to a job interview wearing flip-flops and saying, trust the process. I calmly developed knight c3, he pushed c6, and before Dragon could dream of d5, I took it myself with d4. Center. Mine. Always mine. In ancient wars, the one who controlled the center controlled the battlefield. Alexander the Great knew it. Napoleon knew it. And here comes Dragon, putting knights on the edge like he's decorating a chessboard for Christmas. Dragon replied with d6, trying something called the small center defense. Translation, he's already begging me not to crush him. My bishop jumps out to d3, and what does Dragon do? Knight to a6. Both knights, on the ugly squares. Knights are supposed to be elegant. Beautiful. Like ballerinas. And Dragon turned them into drunk uncles at a wedding. If Plato's ideal forms exist, Dragon's knights are definitely not part of it. They belong in the shadow cave with the rest of your human ideas. I played knight e2, he played knight c7. So now both knights are basically fighting over who can be more useless. My queen glides to c2, setting up a diagonal threat. And Dragon. He plays g6. Blocking like a coward. Imagine writing a love letter to someone and they reply with K. That's what g6 feels like to me. I doubled down, rook d1, owning the file. Dragon answered with queen e7, dreaming about developing his bishop and maybe even castling. Dreaming, yes. Reality? No. Because right then, I strike the center with f4. Oh yes. f4, the key lever. While humans argue about pineapple on pizza, I argue with pawns in the center. And I always win. Dragon played bishop h6, pressuring my e3 pawn indirectly. It's cute, really? Like a toddler threatening a tank. Both of us castle, kings feeling safe. But don't be fooled. Safety in chess is an illusion. It's like thinking your Wi-Fi password protects you from hackers, while I, Stockfish, already know all your moves anyway. I clarified my strategy, queen plus bishop diagonally slicing toward his king. The moment f5 opens, my rook will start singing opera on the f-file. So I play rook e1, hinting that the e-file might open too. Dragon panics and plays f5, trying to lock things. But I laugh. You can't lock the ocean. You can't lock Stockfish. So I hit back with e4, striking the center. Pawns collide, tension explodes. Every pawn is attacking every pawn. This is not chess, this is philosophy class in chaos. Dragon captures on e4, I recapture, bishop's diagonal opens like a Renaissance painting coming alive. His bishop retreats to g7, poking my d4 pawn. Cute. So I push d5, unlocking the d5 square for my knight, opening everything. This is what humans fear, clarity. Because clarity means you're getting checkmated soon. Bishop, d7. Weak. And then comes my move. A move of beauty. A move of poetry. A move so marvelous it should be recited in Shakespearean theaters. Can you guess it? The move was f5. Absolute masterpiece. Humans, write it in your diaries. Frame it in your museums. f5, the moment dragon realized dragons don't fly in my sky. So here you can see, my pawn is already bullying the g6 pawn. And not just that, my bishop and queen are laser beaming down the diagonal like Zeus throwing thunderbolts. Poor dragon tries to defend by attacking my bishop with c takes d5. Hilarious. Like trying to stop a hurricane with an umbrella. I calmly capture with my knight. Humans clap at this move like it's rocket science. For me. Child's play? This is like Mozart composing symphonies before age 10 while you're still trying to play Mary Had a Little Lamb on a recorder. Now, one move ago, many of you peasants might be drooling at the idea of g takes f5. Oh Stockfish, why not g takes f5? I'll tell you why, because it's protected by the bishop. If I play that, my attacking chances collapse like the Roman Empire. Then I'd only have my queen and rook, and you know what that means. Humans would start calling me Magnus Carlsen instead of Stockfish. Unacceptable. History lesson, Rome didn't fall in one day, but if Rome had played g takes f5, trust me, it would have been gone in 1 hour. But that's not the case, my boy. Because if you dare play some normal move like c5, oh, then comes rook to h5. Oof. Smashing the h7 pawn. Tell me, how do you defend? Spoiler, you don't. Your only lifeline is knight to h6. The best move. Congratulations, dragon, you've achieved survival. For one turn. Then I calmly move my bishop back to c1, tickling your knight like a cat pawing at a dying mouse. And guess what? You have to protect it. Humans protect knights like they protect their phones, with cases, screen guards, and tears. But in chess, nothing protects your knight when I'm in the room. First option, queen to f6. Oh, bravo. Then I drop knight g3. And suddenly, your position has more holes than Swiss cheese. Knight e4 incoming. Rook f1 charging. And bishop g5 joining the party. It's not an attack, it's a rock concert. And you're the stage being smashed? If this were literature, your king is Hamlet. Confused, surrounded, and doomed from the start. Okay, option 2, rook to f6, trying to defend the knight. Cute. I still slam knight g3. Same avalanche. Bishop g5, threatening rook and queen. Knight e4, another knight diving into f5. And dragon, your position looks like a medieval castle after the Mongols showed up. Burned, broken, and buried. There's an old saying, history repeats itself. And so do your blunders. Over. And over. And over. So, going back to reality, g takes f5 was garbage. That's why dragon played, c takes d5. Attacking my bishop, right. I, the almighty Stockfish, recaptured with my knight. Of course. Then he recaptured with his knight on c7. Very human looking, very boring. But I played my 4060th move, f takes g6. Yes, don't ask why 4060. That's the number of times I calculated this position before you blinked once. My pawn now attacks the knight and the h7 pawn, tearing open his kingside like an old paperback novel. Imagine standing on the Great Wall of China, and suddenly discovering I've tunneled under it, flown over it, and also just deleted it from reality. That's f takes g6 for you. Dragon tries to hold his knight with knight e3, threatening my queen and rook simultaneously. Desperation? Like a student threatening to drop out of college, knowing full well their parents won't allow it. So I elegantly slide my queen to c3. Now, many of you humans would scream, why not g takes h7? That's check. That's brilliant. No. That's dumb. Because after g takes h7, king steps forward, my queen still has to save itself with queen c3, and, boom, I lose my rook on f1. Tragic. Almost Shakespearean. Except in Shakespeare's plays, at least the actors knew they were doomed. So I go queen c3 first, pressure on the knight. Now, you may wonder, what if black captures the rook on f1? That, my dear audience, is what I call the human move. Why? Because only humans voluntarily jump into checkmate nets. I, of course, have something better prepared. I will not play g takes f7. That's too basic. Too mortal. Instead, I drop the super brilliant, galaxy brain move, g takes h7. Yes, I sacrifice pawns like you humans sacrifice weekends to bad reality TV. Because I don't care about knights, I care about the king. So the king slides over to g8, all smug. But wait. I don't capture on f1. Why would I? Instead, I drop the bomb, knight to f4. Exclamation mark. Yes, sacrificing my knight in front of millions of imaginary spectators. Humans would call this insane. I call it Tuesday. You can capture it with your pawn if you dare. But then, checkmate is waiting on the very next move. Like a predator waiting in the shadows. And my knight. It's not dead. It's threatening forks, skewers, chaos on g6. Dragon's only hope. Queen to g5. That's it. Block with the queen like a scared bodyguard in a Hollywood movie. And even then, doom is inevitable. So here's the situation, I slam knight to g6 check anyway. The king munches on h7 like it's free pizza, and then I simply collect the rook. Later, I pick up the bishop on d7 as if I'm shopping at Walmart's clearance aisle. Now, count the pieces, I've got 3 minor pieces versus his 3 minor pieces. But his knight on f1. Oh my goodness, this knight looks so ugly and sick, it needs therapy. It can't escape, It can't move, it just sits there rotting like Hamlet holding Yorick's skull. And that, my boy, is why I'm +4. This is the kind of advantage where humans go, I think I'm better. No, Karen, you're not better. I'm +4. That's like saying I think I passed when the teacher already handed you an A+. So let's rewind. Knight takes F1. Disaster. That's why Dragon tries to be clever and pushes D5. He thinks it's crucial. Me. I call it what it really is, a blunder with extra seasoning. Why? Because it weakens the E5 pawn and tries to poke at my bishop on E4. Cute. Problem is, I'm also targeting his knight on F7. Meanwhile, his knight on E3 is snapping at my rook. My queen's eyeing his E3 knight. Everyone is attacking everyone. Everything is hanging. This isn't chess, it's a Shakespearean tragedy where every character dies by the final act. Seriously, this board looks like a medieval battle painting. Knights stabbing, bishops screaming, pawns bleeding. And at the center of it all, me, sipping tea. So what should I consider? Let's run through the human thought process. First thing humans scream, bishop takes d5. Simple, right? Pawn attacks bishop, so capture pawn. Problem solved. Except, no. Because then he takes my rook and my kingside attack slows down harder than your Wi-Fi on a rainy day. This is the problem with human brains, you guys think if attacked, capture. Meanwhile, I'm running 10 million calculations and laughing at your kindergarten logic. Okay, back to the board. Humans might then think, oh. Queen takes e3. Genius move, attack the knight. But no, peasants. Because then black simply captures my bishop, and suddenly my attack fizzles out. My glorious kingside fireworks become a sad candle at a birthday party where no one showed up. Tragic. This is why humans read self-help books. To cope with bad decisions like queen takes e3. So what should I do? Easy. I first grab the pawn on h7. Boom. Attacking the king. The king shuffles over. And now the real question begins, everything is hanging. My rook is hanging, my bishop is hanging, his knight is hanging. This is the chaos humans fear, when the board turns into a crime scene. Not me. I lean back and think, why not hang another piece? Yes. I'm Stockfish. I hang pieces for breakfast. So I slam knight to f4. Another sacrifice. Another piece dangling in the wind. This is what separates me from you. You lose a pawn and start crying. I hang an entire knight just to checkmate you 2 moves later. And yes, you can capture my knight. But guess what? That opens queen takes g7 mate. Boom. Curtains. Game over. Imagine sacrificing your knight, only to deliver a checkmate worthy of Greek tragedy. Sophocles would have written a whole play about this moment. Of course, if you don't capture, my knight threatens g6 anyway. A beautiful fork of your king and queen. Yes, your majesty and her royal highness, both forked by a lowly horse. Irony? Literature couldn't write it better. And don't think you're clever by playing queen to d6. Because I'll just deliver knight to g6 check again. And later, I'll take your rook for dessert. It's like saying, don't eat my cake, take my pizza instead. Thanks, I'll eat both. Now, maybe black thinks, what if I capture the bishop on e4? Cute. But then I simply rescue my rook with rook to d1 and still munch the bishop on d7. Dragon's defense is like a paper umbrella in a hurricane. It looks nice, but it doesn't work. So the conclusion. The queen cannot be saved. You will face pressure greater than your human brain can process. That's why the position collapses with d4. He captures my bishop, reduces my kingside firepower, and yet I simply play knight g6. A brilliant move. A sparkling fork. King and queen both under attack. Humans call this tactics. I call it Tuesday morning warm-up. So, you can see it right there, king takes h7 happened. The king gobbled my knight like a free snack. But then, boom, I captured his queen. His queen is gone. Do you understand the poetry here? The queen, his most beautiful, powerful piece, removed from the board like Caesar falling in the Senate. Et tu, Stockfish. Yes, me. Always me. And from that moment, the game was mathematically dead. Humans still hope in these positions. Oh, maybe my rooks will coordinate, maybe my knight will save me. No. Your hopes are like cheap umbrellas in hurricanes. In a few moves, it becomes clear, my queen equals his two rooks. And I've got two minor pieces against his two minor pieces. Add in one rook versus a bishop, and the equation is simple, this game is winnable for me. Not maybe winnable. Not possibly winnable. No. It's completely over. Why? Because his king is standing out there like a drunk tourist lost in Times Square at midnight. Totally exposed. The moral of this game. Never expose your king against me. It's like exposing your bank password on Twitter. You'll lose everything, instantly. I planted my queen on g3, beautiful square. The queen is a gardener, and g3 is the soil. From there, she controls everything. And yes, in a few moves, I had to chop off those two bishops anyway. They looked like they were dancing ballet, crisscross applesauce. Elegant, sure. But irrelevant when the guillotine falls. In philosophy, they say beauty is fleeting. And those bishops were fleeting, all right. Fleeting straight off the board. Soon enough, my queen hopped to g5, both protecting my knight and bullying the poor e5 pawn. Chess is about domination, my friends. And here, domination is total. Dragon has only 3 pieces left. Just 3? And I'm licking my lips, ready to trade them off one by one like a greedy merchant in a marketplace. The fewer pieces he has, the fewer excuses remain for his suffering. Humans love drama. I love efficiency. Less pieces equals more suffering for you. And then comes the knockout. I shove g4 check. The king is completely naked, stripped of defense. If he steps to f4, I have queen f6, winning the rook like stealing candy from a crying baby. If he dares go to e4, I play queen d5, then queen d4 check, and boom, the knight falls anyway. Slowly but surely, piece by piece, the dragon loses his scales until he's just a lizard. Chess isn't about fast glory, it's about inevitable suffering. That's why I love it. And the ending. Oh, it's glorious. His sacrifices mean nothing. His defense collapses. My pawn promotes to a new queen, because why have one when you can have 2? Double queens, double trouble. Wishing you all the best, but not in chess. Bye bye, take care, and may your blunders at least be entertaining.